Yeah. So I started thinking, since nobody really is actually watching this, you can just trim off whatever you want at the beginning, or people just speed through things. Is there any reason to like get started already, or just click start and then finish it all up? You know, you can see some of the times before if you actually, if anybody ever watches any of this, you'll see like, okay, there's like stuff where I'm, oh gosh, I'm live, and then, nobody's paying attention anyway. You can easily edit things out, or once you do this a bit, you see the final output. It's something totally different than what happened, the experience when you record. So, so yesterday I was working on the some of the stack stuff, and I'm gonna publish that later. So, but it's kind of more like the early thinking and setup for like setting up the linked helper, and so I started that yesterday, and then I kind of recorded that, and then I went through a bunch of other decision making points around like okay, like how far do I build my really, what am I doing here? But the end game, like I'm like, I might as well just set up my whole stack, right? So I've been doing this over and over and over, and I sort of have a pattern now that is pretty well thought out. Like it still isn't like perfect in a sense. So I have these sort of thoughts sometimes about like, okay, like, do I want to try this a different way? And then I'm like, no, okay, I'm just going to go back to this setup, this configuration essentially that I've tried and kind of wanted to like optimize. And it's built around the Flexi desktop, and like from there, it enables this kind of like, you can call it a hybrid worker concept. And I think this is the way that you're going to see a lot of agentic AI, right? Because like people want to build things and manage things in an interface and an environment that like makes sense for them. So you're like, you want to be able to see the work and the outputs and interact with your bots, with your agents. And there's this like mindset where you're like, hey, I can go build like a whole like work environment, and I can put a VA on there to do certain things, and I can run bots to do certain things, and it is like a business stack, and then you're just going to plug AI into pieces of this. So there is like a thinking around this, because I started with like, oh hey, am I going to build an AI like SDR BDR type thing, and I'm like, I don't still think that I think in like outside of isolated cases, like I think there's human intelligence at a really nuanced level that needs to happen to build effective like sales funnels. So I think the whole like, hey, I think AI bots in places for sure, but the whole thing, I don't know, like let's be real. So anyway, I'm just going to build this stack. I got a bunch done. I'm going to show it kind of what I'm doing and like kind of give you an example. And I already did run one piece of it, even though it's not all hooked up. At the end of the day, what this does is it's going to give you like an end-to-end kind of like CRM, like outbound, like all these pieces that kind of tie back together and like can be easily scaled and expanded or integrated in other places with like marketing. Like there's a big data collection machine in this that's important. And so, there's a lot that I put into thinking about how this works and what are the right technologies. And you'll see this, that most of this stack is probably pretty familiar. So anyway, I'm just going to give a huge shout out to Doggy. It's his company is like Sendcrux Labs, I think. But anyway, he's got a data science company. He always creates these like email products, and like there's always something new. And so, and they're like really good like technology tools that sometimes they like you have to work a little bit to understand like exactly why you need them, but you need this if you're in you need a good approach to email warm up. And Doggy is like they're just literally like mathematically super good, right? And you're like, hey, it matters, delivery rate matters, and they have the stats to prove it. I've seen it a ton, and this is just around the warm up. There's so much more to these guys, and so I'm going to be helping. I'll show his first iteration of the company. I'm going to be helping them go after more of like an enterprise market for like large volume emailing, which I'm super excited about. I'm like, hey, this is like something I just love. I love this. I love the idea of helping with this kind of like work. I do this, I'm doing this more and more now, like thinking about, this is large volume email, but for me, it's like corporate enterprise scenario exciting, right? I mean, I'm more like personally, like my focus is more like relationship focused. But again, when you get into like these bigger use cases with email, that's something that's exciting me to help other people do, because I do understand a lot about, the technology. And so there's so many angles to this and so many different situations that occur. Like you can be a very small company and send a huge volume of email if that's, kind of your business model. Or you can have large companies, right, that are sending huge volumes of emails, or like maybe it's all transactional. There's just so much going on in the email space. So I'm super excited to get way deeper into this and work with these guys. So yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, hey, I gotta want to make sure I scale according to my business model, right? I don't want to lose sight. And so I wanted to put together this kind of like thinking about my business in terms of like, what are the activities? Like, how do I like literally like say divvy up my time? And I got to be honest with you, if you start to think about this, I'm like, hey, if I actually really worked 4.5 hours a day, like that's a lot of work for me in certain ways. Like, but some of this isn't necessarily, like some of it, for example, sharing and distributing, like messaging on LinkedIn, talking with people, a lot of it can kind of be very like, how would I say, synergistic as you really shape and craft this. And this exercise just, so I started thinking about like, what are these kind of core buckets of things that I need to do, right? I need to create content, I need to share and distribute that content, and I need to monetize that. And so I was trying to think about this in terms of like, okay, now I need to make like a CRM decision, or I mean, you have to have a CRM, like a business management. Like you need the CRM if you're going to do outbound scaled stuff. See, a lot of people don't think about this. They're not like, oh, hey, I need like data management for this large body of people communicating with all the time. But if you're going to scale and grow a business, you have to have this, right? and sometimes like it's like, oh, hey, well, I want to, there's a lot of businesses that happen, right? And they don't get intentional about growth. And then maybe this gets missed, or you're like, hey, yeah. And so there's a kind of activity that, when I see companies that are marketing or sales driven, they're heavily, like, a huge part of the business is focused on the sales, communication, marketing, whatever it is for that business. And there's a so you're gonna have to have, whether you actually, why I put CRM question is like, is it customer data management? There's a lot of approaches to this. I actually tried. Did I show this or not yet? Anyway, whether I showed it or not in my other, I did that. I think last was talking about my, researching. No, that was AI bot. So yeah, no. So okay. So I went through like a CRM exercise to see, with the idea of, hey, can I keep my CRM in WordPress? And so I explored a couple of options there and was like, hey, really, like, the way to go with this is HubSpot. And I'll kind of talk through that a little bit and share some stuff, and I'll show you the stack. Because HubSpot is, I've been through many iterations of setting up, like, what I would call my secret sauce, right? Like, I have a method for how I do outbound, and it's not like a precise method, but it's how would I say, it's a set of tools and kind of approaches that I've done enough times that I'm like, I know I can reach a lot of people at scale, right? And the results have been various, and but what I look at is, I'm like, the reason the results succeed or fail are not because of the implementation of the machine, it's because of the strategy and, like, these other factors, right? Like, was it a good idea to begin with? Were all the pieces in place to actually take this big audience or take this engagement that you can achieve and turn it into sales? And you turn it into meaningful sales, and not just meaningful sales, high margin meaningful sales, and all these things, right? So there's a lot that should be thought about before just diving into like a outbound approach or a marketing approach, because if the whole model doesn't add up from the start, getting a bunch of leads isn't going to do anything. And so yeah, I was like, hey, I need to probably invest about a third of my time or effort into each of these things. And I'm like, I'm doing pretty good on creation, I'm doing pretty good on sharing, but I need to monetize. So I'm going to focus on, like, how do I go and find another sponsor that is, like, from a marketing exercise. So that to give you money for your business, or this is great if you have like a ongoing, like, if you have a machine that's constantly building new people, that's great. But if they're just people, if it's incidental, it doesn't count as, like, scalable growth, right? It's like you have to go out and get people that want. Now, that's not to say that, like, somebody who buys from you doesn't see value in what you provide, but you're not going through the whole, like, sales communication process. The goal is to get to build something that can find somebody you don't know or not in your current, in your current Rolodex or whatever, and bring a lot of people into that scale, right? And then it creates this snowball. Is this part of the music here? I think this is like what? Also weird, but the music turned into like a weird staticky buzz. I'm like, maybe it was part of the music. So yeah, I'm gonna jump over here and show this. And, let's see what I need to do here. I'm gonna share. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, Digital Wave. This is the same team that's doing the warm up IP, and then I'm gonna look at my first step on this one is just gonna be like, hey, okay, what's our game plan, right? What is the strategy for this? And maybe like some alignment of content, just like tiny little, like, minimum change, maximum strategy of, like, okay, how do we reach these, enterprise email decision makers, right? The people that use this, And so for this, you know, what this basically is a complex support mechanism for Amazon SES, at large scale, right? So you have to do some really, like things get interesting when you're, especially in particular, transactional emails, or, some of this can be highly trusted contacts, but still when you get into a very large scale, it's really important. Like, you don't want emails to get missed, and especially on the sales side, if there's product initiatives, and there's so much that goes into protecting the domain and monitoring these large sends, because you don't understand the whole ISP environment deeply and build trusted vehicles for delivering email, then you're gonna you can really easily run into trouble. So I'm excited to help bring this to market, because I've seen the data with Doggy and the team behind this, and they're just they're super experts. So anyway, I'm excited on this, and this will benefit from me building out my stack here. And so the first step, I've mentioned this before, when I was getting into integrating something that works well with WordPress, and I thought, I tried Jetpack and Fluent CRM, and just they're fine, right? They're probably fine, and but they're just immediately out of the gate. I'm like, this is just too simplistic, and not gonna it just wasn't there wasn't enough there, and every review that I read was just use HubSpot, and they have this plugin with with WordPress here. So I just added this in. I mean, most of it really is just that you can see the link here, and you can do certain activities inside of your WordPress, forms and chat stuff. But really, mostly you're just going to end up using HubSpot. So what happens for me is I opened up the Flexi client here. Actually, that's where I have Linked Helper running. That's funny. It just pops right to what you were working on last. And so eventually I'll just have a browser. I set up the Flexi client with all these tools, right? It's going to have probably not WordPress, but it'll have HubSpot, Apollo, LinkedIn, Sales Navigator. So these things will be open. I sign into everything, and then that way it's secure access, right? It's like a static server, all configured for me, has my LinkedIn login. So I can go in there, I can run automation on it. This to me, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen everywhere, but this to me feels like it's the future of work, right? You're I'm a worker, I program my bot to do crazy stuff, and I let it do things, and I come back and check and make sure it's doing good. But it's like me and my digital entity buddy, right? So anyway, this is my Flexi client, and Mike H was asking me about this, and I was talking with him a little bit. And I'm like, I mean, there's going to be this Flexi client, but I like it. It's affordable, it works, and and there's it's also easy. Was the reason for me with Flexi client. So it's easy to use, and just there's not a lot of complexity that you have to get into around all the setup. So in the accounts, and I know this sounds crazy, but getting on Microsoft or any of these cloud environments, if you're not pretty technical, it's just a beast, because you have to okay, I can't just get a server. I have to think about all these other things, right? I have to think about route DNS routing, and I need to think about my security architecture and this complicated account structure. And I'm sure it's improving, and there's better ways to buy. But for me, it's if you just want a Windows machine and it's easy to access, this was the one I found was the easiest. So I did have some Microsoft virtual machine, and the issue there is they're tied. It's it's connected or tied to one like specific. It's connected. It's tied to one specific like Microsoft user license. It's like it just you get into these weird things, right? So anyway, that's Flexi client. So this is linked helpers running here, but eventually I'll just add. You can see like I'll configure. This one I had some stuff for other. It's been running for a while. I had some different stuff set up here, so it was being used for the stuff for data motive, and then I'm swapping. I'll just swap it out. So. They just, the data motor product was actually a really good product. It was hard to get alignment there in the marketing and sales. And with all these startups, they have a certain amount of resources to try things, so that's why to me, actually, I'm excited about Digital Wave because I've known them forever. And I'm like, they're just going to they're going to help me do what I need to get like the outbound and all this stuff going, but and not like they understand marketing. So you're like, okay, it'll be a little bit it'll be fun to get just going. And anyway, sorry, I'm going to go back here. Okay. So HubSpot inside of WordPress, you can kind of tell, and there's not that much to do really. It's in here, and I'll probably use the forms and probably the live chat. So, and then what I did, all right, so I actually here you got, I decided, okay, I'm going to try to go find somebody, Sales Navigator. You set up Apollo with this little sidebar here. And so again, the same thing is, imagine all this is just on like a virtual server. You have this set up, you have a VA, or you can go there's different workflows. Like I'll probably go in there, jump in here and say, okay, I'm going to go just do my own research and find some people. Could you automate this? Yes. Right. But when I'm getting into a very targeted sales process, I'm like, okay, I want to go after Asana. Right. So what I do, okay, first of all, you go find the person, think in Asana. I'm like, okay, this looks pretty good, senior marketing, communications leader, expert, did some research about Asana. Mind blown. I did not. Asana is getting close to $1 billion company. I'm like, what? That's insane to me. I mean, when I remember Asana, because I've been playing around with these tools forever, and it was little startup. I mean, it was cool because it was, they were connected to Facebook and all this stuff. So it was a cool thing. But wow, to think that they're it's over 700 million. That is just mind blowing to me. That some of these Bay Area startups are you're hey, I was wow, they have 4,000 people. I'm looking at this in Sales Navigator. So anyway, it wasn't too hard to find a few of them, and then you just use this Apollo sidebar, add them into and click add them to Apollo, and then what I have from here is the Apollo HubSpot integration. So really, the next step is here, and this, I'm not going to get into it today. This is the most important part of getting everything to work, is configuring the integration of HubSpot and Apollo. And so it's not incidental. Depending on your business, and there's a user flow in your deals and in your data that needs to be supported. So I make sure to map the LinkedIn URL correctly. Actually, my HubSpot's a mess because I've had it around a long time, and add some other integrations, and you can get some field messes in here. So that's one thing to be really clear about, what fields you want to map as part of the process. And even more importantly, is the stages. So I got to refresh here. But so if you go into the there's some default stages, and there's a whole setup that, for me, that's much more relevant, right? And it can be different for every business. So the stage configuration is important. And I have a model that's I've been using forever. And, I tweak it a little bit each time, or I don't get it just right. But I'm going to have Dinah actually just do this for me because I hate doing it. But you go into HubSpot, configure the deal stage, the account or contact stages, and then configure them in Apollo, make sure it all maps up. Like it follows you. This is where you need to kind of understand your business and align how you work, because it's not going to be the same for every business. In a lot of times there's existing pipelines, or when you're creating a new pipeline, again, you got to think about what people are really going to go through, because these are not going like, what's a crunch, right? It doesn't. So, for me, I need to fix these and set them up in my standard model before I get too far into this. And so then, once you have this configured, what'll happen here is if you go back, so I'm going to go back to, just go back and find my new contact that I found. So what I like to do when I'm building these things out is think about, like a use case, right? And, my thing is, hey, I'm going to go build a process to go and like find marketing leaders at companies where where I feel like I have something to say, like I could be an influencer, and then I'm going to go chase down and find the person, that I want, that I want to go find. So I have to do one thing a little bit. Yeah. So here we go. Save. Actually, this is what, I don't know if this is like a new thing that was added, but like this was my number one issue actually with Apollo. I'm like, I feel like this is new. I didn't used to have this. I really like this finally. I'm like, wow, you actually are giving me like this segregation between your data and my data. And I think that if they go deeper with this, Apollo to me becomes a super viable CRM. Like I was like, that core problem to me was a big issue. But anyway, now I'm like, hey, they have this managed records, and I really like this, and it's great. Oh, full contact, yeah, I know. I just want to see her. How do I just get her? I know that, but I can still open her. Oh, it's just being slow. What's that? So, yeah, and I'm on a free Apollo right now for this account. Once I get set up, to me, you've got to invest in you have to invest in your sales pipeline. So, this is probably at least going to be like the basic tier. And I think there's certain things that I like that, it's like $100 a month or whatever for the full Apollo, especially if I'm like, hey, I want to get into doing some calling, and you get killer results from Apollo in terms of engagement or connects if you do the request a phone number, the mobile number. But just remember, if you do this, you're probably doing mobile numbers, so make sure you have something good to say. That's all I'd say. Don't be annoying. So yeah, that's Apollo, and you can see right here it has the HubSpot sync. So you can do all this stuff. Apollo, crazy sophisticated tool. I'll be scaling this up, I'm sure. I feel like this is probably going to be. I'm going to try to build around this, because it's just each time I come back to this whole problem. And you go, by the way, if you go back to the Flexi client, you go back to the the linked helper, that can also run the data right back through this process. And I'm actually thinking I might not. The big thing you want to get is you want to get your LinkedIn messages. That's going to be coming up, but it's going to take some work to build that too. It's there, and it just there's different tools that you can use, and I prefer, which is like the message scraping approach, is the way to go. It's like it can fail, and there's a lot to this. A whole other episode. But right now it's just contact data. I pull it into Apollo, and as I start to do things, Apollo synchronizes everything back to HubSpot. And the idea with this is like HubSpot is the center of the universe from a data standpoint. And it makes sense to do that for just so many different reasons. And as a small business, it's hard to make a case for anything other than HubSpot. Do they get expensive over time? Yes. Annoying? Yes. But it's like, it just like, it's a really, really good product, and it works. And it's like, especially like the things that you can do for not much money are huge. So anyway, that's like that's just the story that it is. So, go back to this. Now, okay, I popped in here. It's, a couple of things you want to make sure that I want to make sure like are synced up. I'm sorry, I just wanted to stay there. But I'll go back to this. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to go target Asana. And, I got my person here. So I can see this. And this is where I started. And so actually, I'm going to use a lead status. The thinking I have about this is, you're not trying to go after a person. You're trying to find the person first. And so this, maybe there's this kind of account-based thinking. It's like, okay, start with the company, and then this lead status is what's important. So I'm going to just use this, and I'll update and clean this up. So right now, yesterday I just was like, oh yeah, let's get started. And so Asana, I'm going to work Asana, right? So I'm going to work XYZ person. I'm going to work a bunch of people at Asana and try to first step figure out like just how does it work, right? Like there's stuff here where okay, I did already do some research and I actually put it somewhere else, but I had a different Asana record and it could integrate. But anyway, I did some research and then they have a partner program and I'm like, okay, but I want to see like more about like, is there an opportunity to be an influencer and actually get paid by them to do something and maybe even become a partner still. But like, the goal of this is to find somebody who has money and decision maker and just figure out like, is there even any possible way there, or do they use an agency for this? Who knows? Like, it's just something to go after. And, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to try to do like 10 of these a day or whatever it is. I mean, it's hard because it's, like how many of these companies, but I start thinking, well, do I need to use Asana or like Monday, ClickUp? I could go hit everybody in that space. It's all like use a tool as long as it supports what I do. Like, I mean, HubSpot, there's a whole community of HubSpot people that I've been part of and all kinds of different programs to sign up for. So, I'm going to explore all these like different channels and find, not just go in the front door though, but also look at how do I penetrate these, I like to think of it like a medieval castle, you can try to go in the front door, you like go into the sewers or, whatever you find, there's all kinds of cracks, So, anyway, that's the stack so far. I mean, the only thing honestly, within this stack, I mean, okay, so one thing is like, I will say you're not going to get a marketing, go-to-market, outbound stack that's all in one and not pay a lot. Like HubSpot can do, sequences and you still get into the data and, just marketing is a world of tools. There's no way around it. You have to have, you're going to have 5-6 things. You're just, it's not like, because the tools of trade, I mean, it's just, think about it like in a shop, right? You can have one shop management tool, but each person who's working at their workbench might have like, you're working on a car, you need to learn to use 10 tools or whatever. You're not going to be like, I only use a wrench, right? So anyway, that's, yeah, that's the that's the drill for today. And there's going to be more to this, a little bit more, but I'm just trying to, that's where I feel like there's another piece, like a voice piece to this that might come into play, AI voice bot, there's more like things down the road, when you think about the different ways you can reach people voices and everyone. And so I think it's probably going to get added. Like, Page is kind of big on that. So anyway, I'm gonna probably research that soon, and once I get more volume. And by the way, I launched yesterday. Campaign got 1 reply already today. So like, and we're talking like VP plus digital transformation. Like this was kind of probably Yeah, I think that, I'm trying to think, probably $5 to $50 million in size. So that's a smaller company. I'm not sure if that's really right for that campaign anyway, but you got to test something and try it. So awesome. Appreciate everybody for watching this, whoever decides to, and I look forward to sharing more of this story. Oh, wait, I need to go to my sponsors. Yeah, wait, I also did this. I did this fun exercise today to improve this little graphic here. This was in Adobe Express, and I couldn't get the SoRent, like I couldn't get it to the SoRent, like I couldn't get them to do the AI to get it super clean. So then I added this like effect, this little haze effect, and it actually came out looking kind of fun, cool. So I added it all to all the logos and thought, okay, I'll make this page look a little better, So it does look kind of cool. It looks a little bit like campy. I'm not sure. I'll probably mess with it more.